Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the observation window of the research vessel Meridian. The stars looked cold and distant in the darkness of space. She had been studying alien life forms for 10 years, but had never seen anything like what was happening now. "Contact on long-range sensors," called out Lieutenant Parks from the communication station. "Unknown vessel approaching Europa. Design is completely foreign." Sarah grabbed her tablet and rushed to the main viewing screen. The ship that appeared was unlike anything in Earth's databases. It looked like a triangle made of liquid metal that seemed to flow and shift even as she watched. Strange lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that hurt her eyes to follow. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Captain Morrison stood beside her with his arms crossed. "It's damaged. Look at those hull breaches. Whatever that thing is, it's dying." Sarah could see he was right. Parts of the alien ship were torn open, and debris floated around it in a small cloud. The flowing metal surface flickered and sparked. The ship was heading straight for Europa's icy surface. "Should we try to help them?" Sarah asked. "Help them?" Morrison laughed. "We don't know what they are or what they want. For all we know, this could be a trick." The alien ship crashed into Europa with a flash of light that lit up the moon's surface. Sarah felt her heart sink as she watched the beautiful vessel break apart on the ice. Whoever was inside had to be hurt or worse. "Sir," Parks called out, "I'm reading a single life sign from the crash site. Whatever's in there is still alive." Morrison nodded slowly. "Contact Earth Command. Tell them we have first contact. Then get Colonel Reeves and his team ready for surface operations." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Colonel Reeves was the military commander assigned to their research mission. He was the kind of man who saw threats everywhere and asked questions later. If there was a survivor down there, Sarah wasn't sure they would get proper medical care. "Captain, I should go with the recovery team," Sarah said. "If there's an injured alien down there, they'll need a xenobiologist." Morrison looked at her for a long moment. "Fine, but you follow Reeves's orders, no matter what." 2 hours later, Sarah found herself in a military transport shuttle heading down to Europa's surface. Colonel Reeves sat across from her, checking his weapons for the third time. His soldiers were doing the same. They looked ready for war, not a rescue mission. "Remember," Reeves said without looking up from his rifle, "we don't know what this thing is capable of. Stay back and let us handle any threats." "It's injured," Sarah protested. "The life signs were weak. Whatever's down there needs help, not bullets." Reeves finally looked at her with cold blue eyes. "Doctor, in my experience, injured animals are the most dangerous. This thing crashed here for a reason. Maybe it was running from something. Maybe it was scouting for an invasion. Either way, we're going to find out." The shuttle landed near the crash site with a soft thud. Sarah could see the alien ship through the small window. It had dug a deep groove in the ice when it crashed. Parts of the strange flowing metal were scattered everywhere, still glowing with faint light. "Life signs are coming from the main hull section," reported Sergeant Davis. "About 50 meters ahead." They walked across the ice in their environmental suits. Sarah's breath fogged her helmet as she tried to keep up with the soldiers. The alien ship looked even more incredible up close. The metal seemed to be trying to repair itself, flowing slowly back together like thick liquid. "There," Reeves pointed to a large opening in the ship's side. "That's our way in." They climbed through the breach in the hull. Inside, the ship was dark except for the glow coming from strange panels along the walls. The corridors were tall and narrow, clearly built for beings much different from humans. Sarah heard it first. A soft sound like music, but sad and low. "Do you hear that?" "Sounds like moaning," one of the soldiers said. "This way." They followed the sound through the winding corridors. Sarah noticed that the walls were covered in patterns of light that pulsed gently. It was beautiful and alien and unlike anything she had ever seen. They found her in what looked like the ship's bridge. She was lying on the floor next to a broken control panel. Sarah's first thought was that she looked almost human, but different in ways that made her heart race. The alien woman had skin that was completely black, but not like human black skin. It was like looking at polished obsidian that reflected light in strange ways. Patterns of soft blue and silver light moved across her skin like living tattoos. Her limbs were longer than a human's and more graceful. Her face was narrow with high cheekbones and large silver eyes that seemed to hold depths of sadness and intelligence. "Target acquired," Reeves said into his radio. "Single alien female, injured but conscious." The alien woman heard his voice and turned her head toward them. When she saw the humans, her silver eyes went wide. She tried to sit up but collapsed back down with a sound of pain. Dark blue fluid leaked from wounds on her side and arm. She spoke then, and Sarah felt her breath catch. The alien's voice was like music with tones and harmonies that human voices couldn't make. It was beautiful and complex and clearly intelligent communication. "She's trying to talk to us," Sarah said, stepping forward. "She's intelligent. This is incredible." "Stay back," Reeves ordered. He raised his weapon and pointed it at the alien woman. "We don't know what she's capable of." The alien saw the gun and her light patterns changed. They became brighter and more urgent. She spoke again, her musical voice taking on what sounded like pleading tones. She raised one long-fingered hand toward them, palm open. "She's not threatening us," Sarah said. "Look at her. She's hurt and scared. She's trying to communicate." "Or she's trying to trick us," Reeves replied. "Davis, get the restraints." "Oh, wait." Sarah moved closer to the alien woman. "Let me try to help her first. She's bleeding. Those wounds look serious." The alien woman's silver eyes focused on Sarah. The light patterns on her skin shifted to softer blues and purples. She spoke again, and though Sarah couldn't understand the words, the tone was clearly grateful. Sarah knelt down beside the alien, ignoring Reeves's angry commands to stay back. Up close, she could see that the woman was incredibly beautiful in an otherworldly way. Her wounds were serious but not life-threatening if treated properly. "It's okay," Sarah said softly. "I'm going to help you." The alien woman reached out with one clawed hand and gently touched Sarah's gloved fingers. Her silver eyes filled with what could only be hope. The light patterns on her skin pulsed gently like a slow heartbeat. "That's enough," Reeves snapped. "Davis, sedate the target. We're taking it back to the station for study." "Her," Sarah corrected. "Not it. Her. She's clearly intelligent and peaceful." "Right now she's a potential threat and valuable intelligence," Reeves said as Davis prepared a sedative injector. "We'll sort out what she is back at the lab." Sarah watched in horror as the soldier approached with the needle. The alien woman saw it too, and her light patterns flared brightly. She tried to move away but was too weak from her injuries. "Please don't," Sarah begged. "She's trying to communicate. This could be the most important moment in human history." "Exactly," Reeves said. "Which is why we're going to do this right. Security first, science second." The needle went into the alien woman's arm. She cried out in her musical voice, a sound of fear and betrayal that made Sarah's heart break. The alien's silver eyes found Sarah's face one more time. Even as the drugs took effect, she managed to reach out toward Sarah with obvious effort. Sarah caught the alien's hand just as her eyes closed. The light patterns on her dark skin flickered once and then went dim. "Get her to the medical bay," Reeves ordered his men. "Full restraints. I want her locked down tight." As the soldiers lifted the unconscious alien woman, Sarah felt sick to her stomach. First contact with an intelligent alien species, and they had started with violence and imprisonment. She looked at the alien's peaceful face and made a silent promise. "I'm going to help you," she whispered, "somehow." But as they carried the alien woman back to their shuttle, Sarah wondered if it might already be too late. In the space of an hour, humanity had met its first alien visitor and turned her into a prisoner. Sarah had seen the intelligence and hope in those silver eyes. She had heard the music in that alien voice, and now they were taking her away to be studied like a lab animal. The shuttle lifted off from Europa's surface, carrying its cargo back to the research station. Sarah stared out the window at the wreckage of the alien ship below. Soon it would be covered by ice and snow, hiding all evidence of this first meeting between two species. She only hoped that when the alien woman woke up, there would still be time to make things right. The research station Cerberus floated in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter like a metal spider. Its long arms reached out into space, covered with sensors and weapons. It was built for one purpose: to study things that might be dangerous to Earth. Sarah Chen had been aboard Cerberus for 3 weeks now, and every day made her feel sicker. The alien woman they had found on Europa was locked in the station's most secure laboratory. What Colonel Reeves called research looked more like torture to Sarah. Subject X7 shows remarkable regenerative abilities, Dr. Marcus Webb said as he updated the daily report. Wounds inflicted during yesterday's test have already begun to heal. Sarah wanted to scream. Dr. Webb talked about the alien woman like she was a thing instead of a person. He had been cutting into her skin to test how fast she healed. He called it tissue sampling, but Sarah knew what it really was. The neural probes are giving us interesting data too, added Dr. Kim Reese. Her brain structure is completely different from ours, much more complex in some areas. Sarah looked through the observation window at the alien woman in her cell. They had named her Subject X7, but Sarah thought of her as Arya because of the musical way she spoke. Arya was awake now, sitting in the corner of her white metal cell with her arms wrapped around her knees. The light patterns on her dark skin were almost gone. When they first brought her here, the patterns had been bright blues and purples and golds. Now they barely flickered. Her silver eyes stared at nothing, empty and distant. "She's giving up," Sarah said quietly. "What?" Colonel Reeves looked up from his datapad. "Look at her. When we found her, she was trying to communicate. Now she won't even look at us. We're killing her spirit." Reeves frowned. "She's a potential threat, Dr. Chen. We need to understand what she's capable of before we can consider any other options." "She's clearly intelligent," Sarah argued. "Those light patterns on her skin aren't random. They're communication. And her voice, the way she speaks, has structure and meaning. She was trying to talk to us, or she was trying to manipulate us," Dr. Webb said. "Many Earth animals use deception to survive. This creature could be doing the same thing." Sarah felt her hands clench into fists. "Creature? She's obviously a person, an intelligent being with thoughts and feelings." "We don't know that," Dr. Reese added. "Intelligence in aliens might look very different from human intelligence. We can't assume anything." Through the window, Sarah watched as two guards entered Arya's cell. The alien woman looked up with fear in her silver eyes. She pressed herself against the wall as the guards approached with another medical scanner. "Daily physical examination," Reeves explained. "We need to monitor any changes in her condition." But Sarah saw the way Arya's breathing got faster when the guards got close. She saw how the alien woman's hands shook. This wasn't a medical exam. This was intimidation. The guards forced Arya to stand up and hold still while they scanned her body. When the alien woman tried to step away, one guard grabbed her arm roughly. Arya cried out in her musical voice, a sound of pain and protest. "Careful with the specimen," Dr. Webb said into his radio. "We don't want to damage it unnecessarily." That was the last straw for Sarah. She turned away from the window and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Reeves called after her. "I need some air," Sarah lied. "This is making me sick." She walked quickly through the station's corridors until she reached her quarters. Once inside, she locked the door and sat down at her computer. She opened her personal research files and began typing. Research log, Dr. Sarah Chen, Day 21. The treatment of the alien subject continues to deteriorate. What started as necessary medical care has become systematic abuse. The subject shows clear signs of intelligence and emotional distress, but the team continues to treat her as a dangerous animal. Evidence of intelligence. Complex vocal communication with musical tones and apparent syntax. Bioluminescent skin patterns that respond to stimuli in organized ways. Emotional responses appropriate to situations. Attempts at peaceful communication during first contact. I believe we are making a terrible mistake. This could be humanity's first contact with an intelligent alien species, and we are torturing her. Sarah saved the file in her encrypted personal folder. She knew it was dangerous to keep these records, but someone had to document what was really happening. She tried to sleep that night, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw Arya's silver eyes full of fear and sadness. When morning came, Sarah was more tired than when she went to bed. The next day brought new horrors. Dr. Webb had decided to test Arya's strength by subjecting her to controlled stress situations. Sarah watched through the observation window as they filled the alien cell with loud noises and bright flashing lights. Arya covered her ears and curled up on the floor. Her light patterns flared wildly, cycling through reds and oranges that Sarah had never seen before. The alien woman was clearly in distress, but the test continued. "Interesting," Dr. Reese noted. "The bioluminescence becomes more intense under stress. The patterns are also more chaotic." "She's in pain," Sarah said. "Look at her body language. She's terrified. Or she's preparing to attack," Colonel Reeves replied. "Notice how her skin is changing color? That could be a threat display." Sarah wanted to argue, but she knew it was useless. The team had already decided that Arya was a monster. Nothing Sarah said would change their minds. The stress test went on for 2 hours. By the end, Arya was no longer moving. She lay on the floor of her cell with her eyes closed and her breathing shallow. The light patterns on her skin had gone completely dark. "Enough," Dr. Webb finally said. "We don't want to kill the specimen." They turned off the lights and sounds. Arya didn't move for several minutes. When she finally opened her eyes, she looked around the cell like she didn't know where she was. The silver eyes that had once been so bright and intelligent now looked empty. "Perfect," Reeves said with satisfaction. "She's learning that resistance is pointless." That night, Sarah couldn't stand it anymore. She waited until the night shift started and most of the research team had gone to sleep. Then she made her way to the laboratory section of the station. The corridors were dim and quiet. Sarah's footsteps echoed softly on the metal floors. She knew the guards would be doing their hourly rounds, so she had to be careful. She reached the observation room outside Arya's cell and looked through the window. The alien woman was awake, sitting against the wall and staring at her hands. Her skin was completely dark now, no light patterns at all. Sarah had never seen anything so sad in her life. 3 weeks ago, Arya had been trying to communicate with them. She had reached out with hope and trust. Now she looked like she had given up on everything. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered to the glass. "I'm so sorry." As if she had heard, Arya looked up toward the observation window. For a moment their eyes met through the glass. Sarah saw a flicker of something in those silver eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or maybe just curiosity about why one of her captors was looking at her in the middle of the night. Then Arya looked away, and the moment was gone. Sarah stood there for a long time, watching the broken alien woman in her cell. She thought about all the things they could have learned if they had approached first contact differently. They could have tried to communicate. They could have offered friendship instead of imprisonment. Instead, they had turned a potential ally into a traumatized prisoner. Sarah wondered if Arya's people were looking for her. She wondered if they would ever forgive humanity for what had been done. Walking back to her quarters, Sarah made a decision. She couldn't stop what was happening to Arya during the day. But maybe she could do something during the night shifts. Maybe she could show the alien woman that not all humans were monsters. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Sarah only hoped it wasn't already too late to make a difference. The station continued its silent rotation through space, carrying its terrible secret. Somewhere in the depths of Cerberus, an alien woman sat alone in her cell, her light patterns dark and her hope almost gone. But in another part of the station, a human scientist was planning to change everything. Sarah Chen waited until 2 a.m. before making her move. The night shift was the quietest time on Cerberus, with only a skeleton crew to monitor the station's systems. Most of the research team was asleep, including Colonel Reeves and his ever-watchful guards. She walked through the darkened corridors carrying a small bag with supplies. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept her face calm in case she ran into anyone. If questioned, she would say she was checking on some late-night experiments. The laboratory section was nearly empty at this hour. Only one guard was on duty, and he was at his station 3 levels up. Sarah made her way to the observation room outside Arya's cell and looked through the window. The alien woman was awake, as she often was at night. She sat in the corner of her white cell with her back against the wall. Her dark skin showed no light patterns at all now. It had been that way for a week, ever since the stress tests had broken something inside her. Sarah opened her bag and pulled out a bottle of water and some food packets. She also had her tablet with music files loaded on it. She wasn't sure if any of this would help, but she had to try something. She entered the cell's outer chamber where there was a small window that could be opened to pass things through. The window had a security lock, but Sarah had learned the override code by watching the guards during feeding times. "Hello," Sarah said softly as she opened the window. "I brought you some things." Arya looked up at the sound of her voice. The alien woman's silver eyes were dull and lifeless, but they focused on Sarah's face. For a moment, neither of them moved. Sarah pushed the water bottle through the window. "You must be thirsty. The guards only give you water twice a day, and that's not enough." Arya stared at the bottle for a long time before slowly reaching out to take it. Her movements were careful and hesitant, like she expected to be punished at any moment. "It's okay," Sarah said. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help." The alien woman opened the bottle and drank deeply. Sarah could see how thirsty she had been by the way she drained half the bottle in one go. When she finished drinking, Arya looked at Sarah with something that might have been gratitude. "I'm Sarah," she said, pointing to herself. "Sarah?" Arya tilted her head slightly as if she was thinking. Then she made a soft sound in her musical voice. It was quieter than her earlier attempts at communication, but it was the first time Sarah had heard her speak in days. "That's right," Sarah said with a smile. "I'm Sarah, what's your name?" Arya spoke again, a longer phrase with rising and falling tones. It was beautiful even in its sadness. Sarah wished she could understand what the alien woman was trying to say. "I wish I could understand you," Sarah said, "but I want to try. Here, I brought you some food too." She pushed the food packets through the window. Arya took them carefully and examined the packaging. After a moment, she figured out how to open them and began eating. She hadn't been eating much lately, and Sarah was worried about her health. "I also brought music," Sarah said, taking out her tablet. "Maybe you'll like this." She started playing a piece of classical music, something soft and gentle. Arya stopped eating and looked at the tablet with sudden interest. The alien woman moved closer to the window, her silver eyes fixed on the device. As the music played, something amazing happened. Tiny points of light began to appear on Arya's dark skin. They were faint at first, just dim blue sparks scattered across her arms and face. But as the music continued, they grew brighter and began to pulse in rhythm with the melody. "You can hear it," Sarah whispered. "You understand music." Arya reached toward the tablet with one long-fingered hand. She spoke in her musical voice, the tones matching the rhythm of the classical piece. It was like she was singing along in her own language. Sarah tried several different types of music over the next hour. Arya responded to some pieces and not others. She seemed to prefer music in minor keys with complex harmonies and emotional depth. The light patterns on her skin grew brighter with each song that pleased her. "You're an artist," Sarah realized. "Music means something to you. Your people must have music too." When Sarah played a lullaby her grandmother used to sing, Arya's reaction was extraordinary. The alien woman's entire body lit up with swirling patterns of blue and silver light. She moved closer to the window and placed her hand against the glass that separated them. Sarah put her own hand on the glass, matching Arya's gesture. Through the barrier, they looked at each other and listened to the gentle melody together. For the first time since her capture, Arya's silver eyes showed something other than fear and sadness. They showed connection. "I see you," Sarah said softly. "You're not a monster. You're a person. You have feelings and thoughts, and you're probably scared and lonely and missing your home." Arya's light patterns pulsed gently like a slow heartbeat. She spoke in her musical voice, the tones soft and grateful. Sarah didn't understand the words, but she understood the meaning. "Thank you. Please don't leave me alone. I won't leave you," Sarah promised. "I'll come back tomorrow night. And the night after that. You don't have to be alone anymore." Sarah visited Arya every night for the next 2 weeks. She brought water and food and music. She talked to the alien woman about Earth and humanity, about science and art and all the things that made life worth living. She didn't know how much Arya understood, but the alien woman listened to every word. Slowly, Arya began to respond more. Her light patterns became brighter and more complex. She started making sounds that seemed like attempts to copy human words. When Sarah said hello, Arya would try to repeat it in her musical voice. But the real breakthrough came when Sarah was humming a song from her childhood. She wasn't paying close attention, just making soft music while she worked on her tablet. Suddenly, Arya made a sound that was completely different from anything Sarah had heard before. It was still musical, but it had structure and rhythm in a new way. Sarah looked up and saw that Arya's skin was glowing with incredibly complex patterns. Swirls of light moved across her body like living artwork. As Sarah watched, the patterns began to take shape in the air above Arya's hands. "What are you doing?" Sarah breathed. The light patterns were creating images. Sarah could see shapes forming in the glow, geometric forms that looked almost like buildings or structures. As Arya continued to make her musical sounds, the holographic images became clearer. Sarah was looking at a city, an alien city with tall spires that curved and twisted toward the sky. The buildings seemed to be made of the same flowing metal as Arya's ship. Light moved through them like blood through veins, creating patterns of incredible beauty. "Is this your home?" Sarah asked. Arya's music became sadder, and the holographic city began to change. Dark shapes appeared in the sky above the beautiful spires. Sarah watched in horror as the city began to burn. The flowing metal buildings turned black and collapsed. The lights went out one by one until only darkness remained. Arya's light patterns faded and the hologram disappeared. The alien woman curled up on the floor of her cell and made sounds that could only be crying. Her whole world was gone. She was alone and far from home with no way to return. "I'm so sorry," Sarah said, tears running down her own face. You lost everything, didn't you? And instead of helping you, we locked you up and hurt you. Sarah understood now why Arya had been trying so hard to communicate when they first found her. She hadn't been trying to trick them or threaten them. She had been asking for help. Maybe even trying to warn them about whatever had destroyed her world. Can you show me more? Sarah asked gently. Can you tell me what happened? Over the next few nights, Arya shared her story through her light patterns and holographic projections. Sarah learned about a beautiful world filled with beings like Arya, who communicated through bioluminescence and lived in harmony with their flowing metal technology. She learned about the attack that came from the darkness of space. Mechanical creatures that consumed everything in their path. Arya showed her images of the war, of her people fighting desperately against an enemy that couldn't be reasoned with or stopped. Arya had been running when her ship crashed on Europa. She was probably one of the last survivors of her entire species, and instead of finding sanctuary on Earth, she had found only more cruelty and pain. We have to tell them, Sarah said during one of their late-night meetings. I have to make Colonel Reeves understand what you've shown me. Your people were destroyed by some kind of enemy. What if they're coming here next? Arya's light patterns flashed urgently. She created new holographic images, showing the mechanical attackers moving through space toward a small blue world. Toward Earth, they're already coming, Sarah whispered. You were trying to warn us. But when Sarah tried to present this information to Colonel Reeves the next day, he dismissed it completely. Interesting hallucinations, he said after reviewing Sarah's recordings. The creature is clearly trying to manipulate us with fake images. It's more intelligent than we thought. They're not fake, Sarah protested. She's showing us real memories. Her world was destroyed and Earth might be next. Or she's an advanced scout for an invasion force, Dr. Webb suggested. These images could be designed to make us lower our guard. That's insane, Sarah said. Look at her. She's traumatized and alone. She's trying to help us. She's a potential weapon, Reeves said firmly. And we're going to find out how to use her. Dr. Webb, prepare Subject X7 for advanced neural. Sarah Chen knew she was running out of time. Colonel Reeves had scheduled the advanced neural probe procedure for tomorrow morning. Once they started drilling into Arya's brain, there would be no going back. Sarah had to try one more time to make someone listen. She found Engineer Martinez in the station's main computer lab, working on some routine maintenance. Carlos Martinez was one of the few people on Cerberus who seemed uncomfortable with what they were doing to Arya. Sarah had seen him flinch during the daily briefings when Dr. Webb described his latest experiments. Carlos, Sarah said quietly, closing the lab door behind her. I need to show you something. Martinez looked up from his work screen. Dr. Chen, it's pretty late for a social visit. This isn't social. Sarah pulled out her tablet and opened the video files she had recorded during her conversations with Arya. I need you to see what Subject X7 has been telling me. The alien, I thought it couldn't communicate. She can. Her name is Arya, and she's been trying to warn us about something terrible. Sarah started playing the videos that showed Arya's holographic projections of her destroyed homeworld. Martinez watched in silence as the beautiful alien city appeared in the light patterns and then burned. He saw the mechanical attackers sweeping across the planet. He saw Arya's desperate escape and her arrival at Earth. My God, he whispered. She's showing us real memories, isn't she? I think so. And look at this. Sarah played the most recent video, where Arya had shown the mechanical forces moving toward Earth. She's trying to warn us that they're coming here next. Martinez stared at the tablet screen. How long do we have? I don't know. Arya's ship was badly damaged, so she might have been traveling for a long time before she reached us. But Carlos, Colonel Reeves thinks she's lying. He's going to do brain surgery on her tomorrow to extract information. That could kill her. Exactly. And if she dies, we lose our only source of information about this threat. Sarah leaned forward. I need your help. We have to get her out of here. Martinez was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, he shook his head. Sarah, what you're suggesting is mutiny. If we're caught helping the alien escape, we'll be court-martialed. Probably executed. If we don't help her, Earth might be destroyed, Sarah replied. Those machines that attacked her world looked incredibly advanced. If they're really coming here, we need all the help we can get. Even if I believed you, how could we possibly get her off the station? Security is too tight. Sarah had been thinking about this problem for days. There's a maintenance shuttle in Base 7 that's scheduled for a routine supply run tomorrow. If we could get Arya aboard that shuttle and override its navigation system, you want to steal a shuttle and escape with an alien prisoner. Martinez rubbed his face with his hands. Sarah, this is crazy enough to work. Look, I'm going to try to help her whether you help me or not. But I could really use someone who knows the station's computer systems. Martinez looked at the tablet again, watching the images of destruction that Arya had shared. You really think she's telling the truth about the machines coming to attack Earth? I've spent weeks with her, Carlos. She's not a liar or a manipulator. She's a refugee trying to warn us about the thing that destroyed her people. Sarah touched his arm. I know it's a huge risk. But what if we're right? What if she's the key to saving Earth? Martinez was quiet for another long moment. Then he sighed. Okay, I'll help. But we're going to need more than just the two of us. Security in the laboratory section is too tight. I might know someone else, Sarah said. Dr. Kim has been looking more and more uncomfortable with the experiments. I think she's starting to question what we're doing. They found Dr. Kim in her quarters reading research reports on her tablet. When Sarah knocked on her door, Kim looked surprised but let them in. Sarah? Carlos, what's going on? Sarah sat down across from Kim and looked her in the eyes. Kim, how do you feel about what we're doing to Subject X7? Kim was quiet for a moment. Why do you ask? Because I've seen you during the briefings. You look sick when Dr. Webb talks about his experiments. I think you know what we're doing is wrong. It's not about right or wrong, Kim said slowly. It's about survival. If that creature has information that could help defend Earth, she does have information, Sarah interrupted. But not the way Colonel Reeves thinks. She showed Kim the same video she had shown Martinez, explaining Arya's attempts to communicate and warn them about the coming threat. Kim watched the holographic projections with growing amazement. These are incredible. The level of detail, the emotional content. This isn't some kind of trick. She's showing us real memories. That's what I think too. But Reeves is convinced she's lying. He's going to do brain surgery on her tomorrow to try to extract information directly. Advanced neural probes? Kim shook her head. With her alien brain structure, that procedure could cause permanent damage or death. Exactly. Which is why we need to get her out of here before that happens. Sarah explained their plan to escape with Arya using the maintenance shuttle. Kim listened without interrupting. When Sarah finished, she was quiet for a long time. You're asking me to throw away my career and probably my life, Kim said finally, for the sake of an alien we've known for less than a month. I'm asking you to help save a person who's trying to save our world, Sarah replied. Kim, look at those images again. Look at what happened to her people. Do you want that to happen to Earth? Kim looked at the tablet screen where Arya's beautiful city was burning. If she's telling the truth about these machine attackers, then Earth is in terrible danger, and she might be our only hope of defending ourselves. So you'll help? Kim nodded slowly. Yes, I'll help, but we need to be very careful. If this goes wrong, we're all dead. They spent the rest of the night planning. Martinez would override the shuttle's security systems and navigation controls. Kim would create a medical emergency that would distract the guards in the laboratory section. Sarah would get Arya out of her cell and to the shuttle bay. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was their only chance. The next morning, Sarah went to work as usual, trying to act normal while her heart pounded with anxiety. She attended the morning briefing where Colonel Reeves outlined the day's experiments. The advanced neural probe procedure was scheduled for 2 p.m. We'll finally get some real answers out of the creature, Dr. Webb said with satisfaction. The probes will let us access its memory centers directly. Sarah wanted to scream, but she kept her face calm and professional. What if the procedure damages its brain? We could lose all the information we're trying to get. That's a risk we have to take, Reeves replied. We've learned all we can from external observation. It's time to look inside. Sarah spent the morning making her final preparations. She gathered supplies for the escape and made copies of all her research files. If they succeeded in getting away, she wanted to have evidence of what had been done to Arya. At 1:30 p.m., Kim triggered the first part of their plan. She activated a false emergency alarm in the medical bay, claiming that one of the research samples had become contaminated and was releasing toxic gases. Security teams rushed to investigate, pulling guards away from other parts of the station. At exactly 2 p.m., when the neural probe procedure was supposed to begin, Martinez cut power to the laboratory section. Emergency lighting kicked in, but the main security systems went offline. Sarah ran through the darkened corridors toward Arya's cell. She had the override codes for the security locks, but she would only have a few minutes before backup power restored the main systems. She found Arya sitting in her cell, looking confused by the flashing emergency lights. When she saw Sarah, the alien woman stood up quickly. "It's okay," Sarah said as she opened the cell door. "I'm getting you out of here. We have to hurry." Arya looked uncertain, but she followed Sarah out of the cell. They ran through the corridors together, Sarah leading the way toward the shuttle bay. Behind them, she could hear Colonel Reeves shouting orders over the emergency communication system. "Security breach in laboratory section 7. All units respond immediately." They made it to the shuttle bay just as the main power came back online. Martinez was already in the pilot's seat of the maintenance shuttle, running through the pre-flight checklist. Kim was loading emergency supplies into the cargo area. "Go, go, go," Martinez shouted as Sarah and Arya climbed aboard. The shuttle's engines roared to life just as security forces burst into the bay. Laser blasts sparked off the shuttle's hull as Martinez lifted off and headed for the main exit. "Shuttle Bravo 7, you are ordered to return to the station immediately." Colonel Reeves's voice crackled over the radio. "Sorry, Colonel," Martinez replied. "We're taking our passenger somewhere safe." As they flew away from Cerberus, Sarah looked back at the research station growing smaller behind them. They had done it. They had saved Arya from the neural probe procedure. But now they were fugitives, and Earth was still in danger from the approaching mechanical forces. Sarah looked at Arya, who was sitting quietly in one of the passenger seats. The alien woman's light patterns were pulsing gently, showing colors Sarah had never seen before. Relief, maybe, or gratitudinal probes. The stolen shuttle raced through space toward Luna Station, Earth's largest orbital facility. Sarah Chen sat beside Arya, watching the alien woman create holographic displays that showed the approaching threat to their solar system. Every image made Sarah's heart sink further. "How many ships?" Carlos Martinez asked from the pilot's seat, looking at Arya's light projections. Arya's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with urgent colors as she expanded the hologram. Hundreds of dark mechanical vessels filled the display, each one the size of a city. They moved through space in perfect formation, consuming everything in their path. "Jesus," Dr. Kim whispered. "There are so many of them." Sarah watched Arya's silver eyes as the alien woman showed them the full scope of the Harvester fleet. The mechanical ships had already destroyed 6 star systems on their way to Earth. Each victory made them stronger as they absorbed the resources and technology of their victims. "How long do we have?" Sarah asked. Arya created new images showing the fleet's progress through space. Based on their current speed, they would reach Earth's outer system in less than 6 months. 6 months to prepare for this," Martinez said grimly. "Against technology that destroyed an entire galactic civilization." But Arya wasn't finished. She began showing them new images, detailed holographic displays of the Harvester ships and their weaknesses. Her people had fought these machines for years before their final defeat. They had learned things that could help Earth defend itself. Sarah watched in amazement as Arya showed them the weak points in Harvester armor, the frequency patterns that could disrupt their communication networks, and the specific types of attacks that could damage their self-repair systems. "She's giving us battle plans," Sarah breathed. Her people died fighting these things, but they figured out how to hurt them. The most important revelation came when Arya showed them why the Harvesters had come to Earth. The mechanical forces weren't just randomly consuming worlds. They were specifically hunting for something that Earth possessed in abundance: creative, unpredictable intelligence. The Harvesters were perfect machines that could adapt to any logical strategy. They had defeated every enemy they faced because they could predict and counter organized military tactics. But they had one critical weakness: they couldn't handle true chaos and creative thinking. Humans, with their tendency toward improvisation and seemingly random decision-making, were exactly what the galaxy needed to fight back against the Harvesters. Arya's people had recognized this potential and sent her to find Earth before it was too late. "We're not just another target," Kim realized as she watched Arya's explanations. "We're the key to stopping them." Luna Station appeared ahead of them, a massive wheel of metal and glass spinning slowly against the backdrop of Earth. Sarah could see patrol ships launching from the station's docking bays. Word of their escape from Cerberus had already reached Earth Command. "Attention, stolen vessel," a voice crackled over the radio. "You are ordered to surrender immediately. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. Sarah, Martinez said from the pilot's seat. What do we do? If they take us back to Cerberus, they'll kill Aria and ignore her warnings, Sarah thought quickly. They needed to reach someone in authority who would listen to reason. Someone who cared more about Earth's safety than military protocol. Try to contact Admiral Zhang directly, Sarah said. She's the head of Luna Station's science division. If anyone will listen to what Aria has to tell us, it's her. Martinez worked his communication controls, trying to establish a direct channel to the Admiral. Around them, the patrol ships were closing in. Sarah could see weapons charging on their hulls. Admiral Zhang, this is Dr. Sarah Chen aboard the science vessel requesting emergency audience, Martinez transmitted. I have critical information about an imminent threat to Earth. Information that could save billions of lives. For a long moment, there was only static. Then a new voice came over the radio. Older, more authoritative than the patrol ship commander. Dr. Chen, this is Admiral Zhang. I'm aware of your unauthorized departure from Cerberus. You're in serious trouble. Admiral, please, Sarah said, taking the microphone. I have the alien subject with me. She's been trying to warn us about an invasion fleet that's heading for Earth. 6 months from now, we're going to be attacked by machines that have already destroyed multiple civilizations. Dr. Chen, you've committed mutiny and theft. Return to Luna Station immediately and surrender yourself and the alien subject. Sarah looked at Aria, who was listening to the conversation with obvious concern. The alien woman's light patterns were pulsing with anxiety. Admiral, give me 5 minutes, Sarah said desperately. 5 minutes to show you what she's been trying to tell us. If you still think I'm wrong after that, I'll surrender without a fight. There was a long pause. Sarah could imagine Admiral Zhang weighing her options. Finally, the Admiral spoke again. You have 5 minutes, Dr. Chen, but this conversation is being recorded and you're still going to face charges for your actions. Understood. Aria, can you show the Admiral what you showed us? Aria nodded and began creating her most detailed holographic display yet. She projected the images through the shuttle's communication system, sending them directly to Luna Station's main screens. Admiral Zhang and her staff watched in silence as Aria showed them the destruction of her homeworld, the approaching harvester fleet, and the detailed battle plans that could help Earth defend itself. The holographic displays were incredibly detailed, showing technical specifications that would take human scientists years to develop. When Aria finished her presentation, the radio was quiet for a long time. My God, Admiral Zhang finally said. These projections, the level of detail is extraordinary. Dr. Chen, is this alien truly claiming that a massive invasion fleet is approaching Earth? Yes, Admiral. And she's offering to help us fight them. Her people studied the harvesters for years before they were defeated. She knows their weaknesses. The technical data she's showing us, some of these weapon designs are beyond our current capabilities. If this is real, it's real, Admiral. I've spent weeks with her. She's not lying or trying to deceive us. She's a refugee who's trying to save our world the same way she couldn't save hers. Another long pause. Sarah could hear voices arguing in the background at Luna Station. Finally, Admiral Zhang came back on the radio. Dr. Chen, I'm ordering the patrol ships to escort you to Luna Station. But you won't be taken back to Cerberus. You and the alien subject will be brought directly to our main conference room for a full briefing with Earth Command. Sarah felt relief wash over her. Thank you, Admiral. You won't regret this. I hope not, Dr. Chen, for all our sakes. 2 hours later, Sarah found herself standing in Luna Station's main conference room with Aria beside her. The room was filled with Earth's top military and scientific leaders, all staring at the alien woman with mixtures of curiosity and fear. Admiral Zhang stood at the head of the table, a stern woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She looked at Aria with obvious fascination. Before we begin, Admiral Zhang said, I want to make something clear, Dr. Chen. Your actions in helping this alien escape from Cerberus were illegal and dangerous. However, if her information proves accurate, those actions may have saved our entire civilization. Sarah nodded. Admiral, may I introduce Zarathis of the Luminar Collective? She prefers to be called Aria. Aria stepped forward and began to glow with gentle blue and silver patterns. She spoke in her musical voice, the tones rising and falling in complex harmonies. As she spoke, she began creating holographic images that showed her people's history and culture. She's beautiful, someone whispered. From the back of the room, the holographs showed the Luminar worlds as they had been before the Harvester attack. Beautiful planets where beings like Aria lived in harmony, with their flowing metal technology. They were artists and scientists and philosophers who had never known war until the machines came from the darkness between stars. Arya showed them the desperate battle to defend her homeworld, the evacuation ships that carried refugees to safety, and her own escape mission to find Earth and warn humanity about the approaching threat. 6 months, Admiral Zhang said after Arya finished her presentation. 6 months to prepare for an enemy that has destroyed multiple civilizations. But we have advantages her people didn't have, Sarah said. Arya says humans think differently than other species. We're more unpredictable, more creative. The harvesters can't adapt to true chaos the way they can adapt to logical strategies. You're saying our tendency toward seemingly random decision-making is actually a military asset? Asked General Morrison, the head of Earth Defense Command. Exactly. Arya's people fought the harvesters with traditional tactics, organized fleets, coordinated attacks, logical battle plans. The machines adapted to everything they tried, but humans don't always think logically. We improvise. We take crazy risks. We try things that make no sense but somehow work. Arya began creating new holographic displays, showing battle scenarios where human-style tactics could be effective against the harvesters. Random attack patterns, unpredictable formations, strategies that changed constantly without any apparent logic. It's like jazz, Dr. Kim said suddenly. Jazz music is structured but improvisational.